Hey, you can't tell if it's day or night in this show. Guess what? We're doing a nighttime recording. It's morning someplace. It's probably morning in New Zealand. So, good morning to all our
Yes,
Kiwis out there. Dewey Freeman and Mark Sylvester, the Elder Council. Dewey, how are you, my friend?
I am very well. I've just come off the initiation with uh, leading with Traver and Michael, sort of back home, putting my life back together, taking care of stuff, and I'm doing exceptionally well.
There
And
was one
our
shot.
weekend did really well.
There was one
It went
shot of
really
all
well.
of you on the deck
Mm.
watching the sunrise that was particularly powerful. It almost had that been staged, it would have been a beautiful memento photograph to have everybody have, because I think it was done as a video, but that was something so powerful that all arms were, I don't, in my mind, I don't remember exactly, but it felt like everybody's arms were locked or something, but they
Yeah,
were
we were all
clearly
connected.
watching, and the sun had just coming up.
It was actually a sunset.
Oh, well, see, I thought you were looking east. See, there you go. What is time? Time doesn't matter.
Time doesn't matter. What did you say? Time is
Time is what keeps everything from happening all at
yeah,
once.
all at once, which is perfect.
I'm a time hacker. I believe in a 40-hour day. So I might as well just work one day and I'm done. I mean, time is like, if you don't wear a watch, do you know what time it is? And does it matter?
Ultimately, no. And there are some things that are much easier to do in daylight than dark, and some other things that are much more fun to do at dark than in daylight. So on that level, it matters.
I'm addicted to time, so I will say that right now. I don't, and I hate setting clocks. So all of my clocks are atomic clocks,
Mm-hmm.
and they run off the radio frequency coming out of Boulder, Colorado, and which is just near you. So I believe that timeliness is the courtesy of kings.
Very nice. I like that.
Yeah, I'm.
But I've just heard two sayings about time that I've never heard before in my life. That is lovely.
That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Mark, because Mark has really good things to say.
So I've been thinking all week long about the stories we tell ourselves. I'm a storyteller. You're a storyteller. We surround ourselves with storytellers. It's important to both of us. We use story in our work. We use story to bring ideas out. In my role as a TEDx organizer, I help people get their story out. This
Absolutely.
show is a collection of stories. However, I want to focus on a very specific kind of story and talk about it, and that's the story we tell ourselves. And when I say that, what goes through your mind?
This is absolutely not where I thought I'd be going. However, I'm going to go there. Good evening, everyone. At some point, about 70 to 75,000 years ago, our forebrains began to develop. What our forebrains developed into, yes, the front part of our brain, what our forebrains developed into was a part of the organ of our brain that can make up fiction.
Oh, okay. Keep going.
We are the only animal/mammal that can make up fiction.
Hmm. Is that
And
the prefrontal cortex?
yes. Mhm.
And are we the only one who has a developed prefrontal cortex, or the only one who has that at all? And is that a mammalian thing?
Different mammals have some level of a prefrontal cortex. For instance, a horse's brain is about 2.7 pounds. Our brain is 3 pounds. The
Okay.
difference is our prefrontal cortex. Their prefrontal cortex is about as big as a small walnut. Our prefrontal cortex is as big as our fist.
Um, is it the size of it that gives us the ability to fictionalize, or the
It,
fact
it,
that it exists at all?
it's the size of it and the complexity of it. Other parts of our prefrontal cortex help with coordination and assist in coordination and assist with what's called proprioception, which is where we are in space. And the biggest part of it is that we can actually have abstract thought.
Mm,
And what abstract
mm.
thought is being able to have process and imagination around um, things that we cannot see, touch, feel, smell. And it really, what it really does is allow us to give meanings to symbols. So language,
Hmm.
for instance, is
Hmm.
a audible symbol. So we can make a sound that says chair, and people who know English will go, oh, that's this thing that we sit in.
And listeners will remember when we were talking about early childhood, which is another thread I'm fascinated with. When you talk about, like, we don't know, we associate that symbol, the word chair, with the thing chair, and that is a
Mhm.
learned behavior um,
Right.
over time. I'm I'm interested. Do here we go. Do we know it's fiction?
Sometimes
Hence the
that's
story we tell
that's
ourselves.
yes, and that's, I mean,
There you go.
one of the
There
things
you
that's
go.
so lovely about doing these with you is, even though, and this is the truth, audience, we do not pre-plan this. However, what's so interesting about doing this with you is that many times, right when I'm about ready to go, and you ask these great questions that are right there. And it's like, no, sometimes we don't know that we're making up a story. Sometimes we know that we're making up stories. Sometimes we know that we're making up stories, but we really don't allow ourselves to believe that they're fiction.
Mm.
And sometimes we make up stories that are not fiction.
I'm
So,
specifically thinking of the story that amplifies the sense of self-doubt. Because what's interesting is when I encounter someone who has that, I will, in an effort to help refocus them or flip their focus, if you will, knowing that they're going to listen to themselves when I walk away anyway. I'm just going to give them a little nugget to chew on and try to reframe something for them. How how do you get someone to understand that's a fiction? Because I could, in my instance, I will add a lot of evidence that they're fantastic, that they do have self-worth. And I'll give them, I'm not blowing smoke, right? I will tell them
right.
real things. And yet their perception of that is is honest and true to them. But to your point, I'm going to say it's fictional.
It is fictional from an objective place. one of the pieces that we often do not stop and ask ourselves is the story that we're making up true?
So, okay, stay with that for a second, Doc. So, our cognitively, it is a fiction. Emotionally, it is a truth.
To us.
Yeah. To
Yes.
us. To us.
Mhm.
So if I'm, and physically, I'm going to stay in our subconscious. Physically, if it makes me feel bad, is now affecting my sense, my body. Whatever it is, it's
Yes.
depressing me. It's doing whatever it is physically to me. So if emotionally I believe it to be true, is the way in either to help myself because I can't look at myself in the mirror, or if someone is helping me or I am helping someone, is the path into that an emotional one, a cognitive one, or a physical one?
Yes.
Somatic
And physical, and I would say somatic.
instead of physical. Yes, I
Yeah,
understand.
I would use that. What's interesting is that in the stories that we tell ourselves many times, what we will do is whatever the story is whether or not it's really true from a more objective perspective, we will believe whatever that story is and behave as if it's true. Many times when we behave as if it's true, the response we get back from others will prove that it was true.
It reinforces that behavior. Yeah.
Right, right.
So let me see if I can make an example out of this in improv. So in improv, someone will say, "Well, that's a mighty fine hat you got there, Mark. We're glad you're the new sheriff in town." So they've now just embodied me with a truth. I'm the new sheriff in town, and I
Right.
can believe that truth. And then I can live into it and I can tell that story. So now everything I say, my body, my emotion, how I react, how I am in the world is the new sheriff in town. I might even be a little afraid of being the sheriff. Well,
Yeah,
I don't know if you
yeah.
picked the right guy. And, and what's going to happen is depending on how compelling that is or how truthful it is, maybe
Mhm,
truthful it is,
mhm.
everyone is going to react to that and actually support that belief that I am the
Mhm.
sheriff. And I'm a little tentative. I'm glad that you all have faith in me, but I'm a little
Yeah,
tentative.
right.
Um, I tend to think of life through these improv lenses a lot of the time. Like how would you do that? And what got me on that path real quickly was this acting as if.
Mhm.
I'm acting as if I'm the sheriff, but when I'm trying to change my behavior, I was like, I'm going to act as if I'm a normal, adjusted, well-rounded,
Exactly. A normal adjusted sheriff.
right? I'm going to act as if. And so I've found that as I don't know if it's a coping mechanism or it's maybe it's part of being an elder. Could be that you notice that you're in a state and my
Mhm.
state's going to affect other people and that's not necessary. I don't need to put them through that. And so I'm going to act as if things are fine and deal with it later. I don't know, maybe that's way more
Well, no,
complicated psychologically.
no, I think you're on the right track. Let me back up again a little bit and play with the story that you just told uh, in improv. So somebody says exactly what you said. It's like, yeah, you're the new sheriff in town, and what are you going to do about the outlaws? And then you go, let's say you freeze and go, oh shit, I don't know what to do with that. And then,
As a player or as the
yeah, as a
sheriff?
player,
As a
no.
player, yeah, exactly. That's
So you're
exactly what
the,
happens, by the way.
yeah, absolutely. Now, if you freeze, if I'm the one that says you're the new sheriff in town, and you
Then I
freeze,
freeze.
instead of taking a breath and going, okay, let me drop back into sheriff, a possibility is you could make up the story of, I'm horrible at improv. I have no idea what the sheriff would say. And why in God's name did Dewey give me that one? I could have done anyone but that. All of those things are stories that you make up that would stop you from being able to drop in and go, yeah, I'm the new sheriff and I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, that'd be another story. So much of what happens is people stumble over themselves and make up the story that whatever mistake they just made has just ruined everything.
Hmm.
For instance, that's one of the stories.
You know what the coach tells us, because we have a coach, because we drill this stuff all the time. Get out of your head, Sylvester.
Exactly.
Get in your body.
That.
What does the sheriff feel like
come from?
When he says that to you? What do you feel? How does the sheriff feel?
Yes.
And then be just, and you know what he has us do? Make a sound. Ugh, ugh. And that'll help define my character. And Dewey, I'm telling you, I've been doing this for 6 years and I still feel like a white belt in doing this. But I found that the lessons that we drill over and over, it's funny, ironically, improv, you make it up as you go, but it's a muscle. It's a goddamn muscle that you work on.
Yes.
Right. And improv is life. And we don't know what we're going to say. We don't know how we're going to react. And someone says something to us and they lay some heavy shit on us, and now I'm all up. What do I say? And you're doing all this stuff, and what happens?
All this up.
Oh,
and what your
yes,
keep going. You're great. And what your coach is telling you is get out of your fucking forebrain.
Yeah.
Get out of the part of you that's making up fiction.
And get here.
Yeah.
Get there. And he says, if you can't think of, and his coaching is, if you can't think of anything, if you're fucking stuck, just start the sentence with, I feel, and that'll get you out of it.
Yeah.
I feel pretty apprehensive about this wearing his badge, and outlaws just left. I know they're coming back. Yeah. So now we have, and
even if you say, I feel I don't know what to say as a new sheriff.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like maybe you picked the wrong guy. Feel like I'm going to disappoint you. I mean, you can come up with a bunch of I feel likes, and the trick is, an interesting trick for me, because I love to talk, as our listener knows, is to say one line and shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And then you let other people make up stories and see what is coming from them.
Amen, brother. And trust your partner to come up
your partner
with some. They'll take that little gift you gave back to them, which could be a gift of a pause, gift of reflection.
Yeah. So one of the pieces here with all of this, and I love your examples that you bring up in improv, because part of what that can do is teach people how to live their life from a place of improv.
The story that my wife loves to tell about the power of improv is, we went to a rehearsal a couple years back, and 8 or 10 of us in this troupe, and we get in a circle, and we do some warm-up games, just kind of get juices going. And the teacher comes in, and he throws a old boombox into the middle of the circle, and it's playing. He goes, "Okay, dance party." And everybody knows that dance party is everybody except me, you just start dancing, right? And then someone comes in the center and they dance, and everybody dances like that person. And then someone comes in, and it's dance party. It just gets your body going. And I was like, I don't dance. I'm not, I used to, but I don't dance. And the guy who was standing next to me, he just pulled me out of the circle just a little bit. And he goes, "I know you don't dance, but your character does." Which gave me permission to dance. I know you don't dance, but your character does. So think about that as the story you tell yourself. I know you're not a very tolerant man, but your character is.
That'd be really good, I know that as a man, you're not very tolerant, but the husband of your wife is tolerant. That's pretty good. I like that.
That works, right?
Yeah.
I guess it just comes from being old and being interested in a lot of different things, that these lessons come up in life. And I wish I had heard that lesson when I was 25 instead of 65.
Exactly.
I'm glad I have it now, and I'm glad we have this platform by which to share that.
Can I share one more piece here?
Please.
Just along this line? There's other ways to begin changing some of those stories too. When you, and I don't mean you, Mark, but I mean you, audience, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? You look and go, I'm alive, I'm moving, I'm working on stuff? Or do you go, oh, I got some fat here, and this part of my body isn't what I want it to be, and I'm this and I'm that, and I mean, all of those things. One of the pieces, when we look at ourselves, or when we say something to somebody and we go, oh, God, I just said that. I know Mark's just gonna hate me for saying that. He's never gonna want to talk to me again. Is when we say those kinds of things, and I think it's imperative on us to ask ourselves the question of, is it true? And there's a woman named Katie Byron who does a lot of stuff with this, but so I will give her credit for these statements. As part of what she does is ask people, is it true? And then if people go, well, I think, yeah, I think I am sort of ugly, or whatever it is can you prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's true?
So I'm going to poke at that for a minute, because I think that everybody's truth is different. And I think what we've seen in the last several years, that truth is debated, right? There was a true thing. We have it on camera. Yeah, no, didn't happen. So I think truth is in peril right now. And I would suggest that is the truth, objective, scientific, provable truth, is that the truth? Or is how you feel about the thing the truth? and I have deferred to the how I feel about it is true to me, and that's my truth. Whatever the objective reality is whatever it was. I saw it different. I blinked. I didn't, it doesn't matter. How I feel about it, that I have. And I've found that when I am critical, and the word judgmental kept jumping out as you were talking. Everything had to be around judgment. When I'm being critical and I'm not positively critiquing, two completely different things, I will say, that thing you did made me feel this way. And that can't be, and I've done that very specifically, probably from some coaching earlier in life, because you can't debate. Well, you didn't feel angry. Yeah, I felt angry.
I felt angry when X happened.
Yeah. Well, it didn't happen that way. Okay, that I'm still feeling angry about that.
Right. What you're saying, I can go with. I also think that when we're talking about truth, we're talking about truths on different. There's layer after layer after layer after.
What's the bottom? I like where you're going. What's the bottom layer of that truth? What's the foundation? Well, is this like a triangle, or is this a square, or a circle? Come on, you know me. I'm going to draw this thing out, and I'm going to have it turned into a poster by the finish of the talk.
Well, actually, what I see it as is, I would see it as ultimately a ball of energy at our core.
Okay, I'll go with that.
And I think we still need to question the truth. Like, let's say, this totally made up. Let's say you really, really are a stickler for time.
Stickler for time.
Yeah. Let's be here on time. Let's get going. And I show up 5 minutes late for whatever reason. One possibility is I can go, okay, Mark is really mad at me no matter what. I know that Mark's mad at me. He's holding his left hand up to his mouth and he's not talking. And I know that Mark's mad at me. And probably if I come late another time, he's not going to want to talk to me anymore. That's what I'm talking about. Those projections that we put on another person. And those judgments that we make of ourselves. I do think we need to ask, is it true?
It's our ability, as we established earlier, Council, that we have the ability to fictionalize, and that is preeminent. Yes. I mean, it's right here. It's right in front of everything else.
It's right in front of everything else.
It's got to go through that. So I think asking this question, even about the feeling, is that true? Is my anger rooted in some truth? Was there a righteous misjudgment or treatment of something, and I have a righteous anger, or did I misinterpret? Did I, ask, so maybe that turns into a little bit of question and saying, hey, I noticed you were late. Are you okay? That might be the way to, it's okay. Let me see if I can bring it home to like our second episode. That is an opportunity to train, which is an opportunity to create an opening, which is an opportunity to create intimacy through building one little brick. Because now I can say, I don't assume.
Time and come out okay. Yeah.
You okay? No, I'm sorry. I got caught up and I lost track of the time, or whatever it is you said.
Yeah, whatever it was, or I might assume that you're upset, and you might have just gotten there 4 minutes late, and I was 5 minutes late, and you were happy I was late. I mean, what we're working with here is trying to find out what's really happening between, particularly between two people,
Right. Yep. Yep.
and not making up a bunch of stories.
Yep. I'm influenced by something has been a recurrent theme for us, which is the culture of the relationship and the culture in which the relationship exists. And if it is a safe culture and one of trust, then your assumption, because we're assuming you're going to be mad, or assuming whatever I'm assuming you didn't pay enough attention to be on time, or whatever, that belies a culture that is not safe.
Correct.
So therein lies the thing you might want to be paying attention to, rather than the fact that one or the other was late.
Right. And then making sure that you understand the culture. And this goes into a whole other thing. If there's a culture that's not safe, it might be worth looking at that culture.
100%.
It might be worth going, is it true that I really want to be here? Is it true that I'm getting something out of this? Is it true that I mean, how many people have stayed married because they're supposed to, when they really looked at it and they really looked at the truth of it, they go, I need to be out of here. Should have been out of here five years ago.
But I said, but is it that they don't feel safe to be able to make that, to acknowledge that truth?
When we get there, it could be many things. I mean, it could be financial, it could be messages from childhood that you never give up, it could be, you name it.
All of this gets me, we've bounced around a lot of different things that are just so important. I mean, I hope our listener has been taking notes, because I know I've been taking notes. This notion of what is true, it kind of gets me back to this idea of being present, which we've talked a lot about. You have deep roots in meditation. I have roots. I don't know that they're deep like yours, but I've got the roots there, and it is a constant practice to be present and to be truthful in that presence, and to kind of, when something comes in, it's like I'm noting that's a feeling I'm having, that's a thought I'm having, that's a whatever that thing is, and I'm trying to be very present and truthful. That's part of it. That is one fucking hard way to live, to be honest, because it takes work to be that present. However, I would suggest that in our closest relationships, that is worth the effort.
It's not only worth the effort, it is what creates intimacy.
There you go.
And I don't mean just sexual intimacy. I mean
no.
intimacy.
It's the intimacy we have with coworkers. It's the intimacy we have with partners, with all the people in our lives. We want to be intimate. That language, you have to probably be super careful with that. But I would think that the Green Berets I know feel that they have a deeply intimate relationship with their brothers and sisters.
Completely.
And isn't that what we all crave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. with all of this, I also want to bring in another aspect of the stories that we make up and our ability to create fiction. We've been talking about some of the stuff that's like core depths of relationship. I also want to bring in the aspect of our ability to create fiction is what allows us to make art,
Mm.
is what allows us to tell unbelievably enticing, beautiful stories, is what allows us to create play with each other, is what allows us to laugh, is what allows us, yeah, to do super silly things that are just, that you just go, oh my God, that was so much fun.
It's what separates us from the bonobos.
Yeah. And and it is what allows us to, it's what allows us to be this.
Mm. Mm.
One of the things that I say with all the stuff that I've done, and people go, well, where did you get all of that? Where did your theories come from? And the real bottom line is I make shit up.
Absolutely.
And I do that from some ground. But,
Scientifically, that's called a hypothesis, doctor.
oh, that.
And then you test your
Well,
hypothesis and it turns into truth or not. So I make up shit all the time. Life is a lab. Life is a
yes.
place to test out those things. Is this a crazy idea, or could we imagine? I mean, I've been inventing shit my whole life, and
Yes.
if you can invent that thing and make that thing something that you in my world, it's something I want to sell, and
Hmm.
I can create take an idea from here and put it to here and then offer it to you, and there's some exchange of value, whether that's energetic value or it's material value, and then there's more Deweys lined up to get that thing and it becomes a business. That is that's what I'm Zen Cone is calling into being.
Yes. And exactly. And so I just didn't want to go down the path of going, okay, let's really watch the projections we make, and which that's very, very important. But this forebrain of ours, the ability to create story, the ability to imagine ourselves in the middle of a story, the ability
Mm.
to, I mean, you know, to, I mean, to create Lord of the Rings.
To create Lord of the Rings, he invented a language.
Yes.
He was a linguist.
Yeah.
And he needed to be able to make sure he had all the words. He wrote these stories, and it had nothing to do with the stories. It had everything to do with the language,
Yeah.
which was kind of back to where we started, which was how important language is. Language is at the root of our culture. It's what connects us. By paying attention to our words, words do matter. Taking a second
Yes.
to edit. I'm I find it very difficult, yet I find it very rewarding when I say a better formed sentence than the one that would have just
Mhm.
spewed out of my mouth. That's just part of that's the fourth tenet for me, right? Self control.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
being able to do that. I want to land this plane a little bit on the note that the the question I think when we find ourselves spinning, let's say that I'm spinning
Hmm.
on this story, and it's got me, and we all know that, we all can relate to that. I'm spinning on this story. Something somebody told me, something I'm telling myself, something that was a trigger, but I'm spinning. And there's no one around to stop the spin. I love this. What is truth? Because that is, at least allows us to jump into some objectivity and just stop for a second and say, what is truth in this, whatever, however you want to interpret that. I think that's a tool we could leave the listener with that could help them.
I think I'm totally with you. So it's, what is truth, or is this true? And the other thing that I would say, and this is what earlier on your coach is doing with you, is just say something. And what I say to people is do something different. It almost doesn't matter what you're doing.
It never does.
Just do something. If you get yourself all wound up in do something different.
Improv, we call that the first unusual thing, or the tilt.
Perfect. Yes.
On that note, Dewey Freeman, I can't wait till we talk again.
This is lovely.